The grand exhibition of exotic beasts was a spectacle like no other held annually in the sprawling metropolis of Valterra, the capital of the Galactic Alliance species. From every corner of the galaxy showcased their rarest and most dangerous creatures, drawing millions to witness the extraordinary. This year's highlight was the presence of King Thion of Xenui, who brought with him the most feared predator in the known universe, the Nightshade Wolf. The Nightshade Wolf, a towering beast of shimmering black fur and piercing silver eyes, was said to be untamable legend, spoke of planets raised by its wrath and armies routed in terror. The creature's very presence was enough to send chills through the hearts of those who saw it as it was paraded through the exhibition arena. Even the bravest in the crowd averted their eyes, unable to meet its haunting gaze. 7-year-old Mia was not among those. Afraid small for her age with a curious spirit, and a PCHJ for wandering, she had slipped from her father's side to get a closer look at the exhibits. The cheers and roars of the crowd barely registered to her as she maneuvered through the towering legs of spectators from his elevated throne. Above the arena, King Thion observed the proceedings with a regal air draped in the shimmering blue robes of Xenui royalty. His expression was one of pride. The Nightshade Wolf, restrained by magnetic bonds and surrounded by his elite guard, was a symbol of Zent's strength and dominance. No creature alive could match its ferocity, or so he believed, as the beast growled and paced, testing the limits of its restraint. Something unexpected happened. The magnetic bonds flickered, sparks flying. As the field weakened, the audience gasped as the wolf's restraint shattered, freeing the ferocious predator. Pandemonium erupted. Spectators screamed and scrambled to escape as the wolf leapt into the crowd, its growls reverberating through the arena. King Thran's guard surged forward, but their weapons were no match for the creature's speed and raw power. The beast moved with deadly precision, scattering those who dared to approach. In the chaos, Mia found herself standing alone in the arena's lower level. She watched wide-eyed as the Nightshade Wolf turned its gaze toward her. The crowd froze, holding their breath as the massive predator stalked toward the small human girl. Eldrick, Mia's father, had been searching frantically for his daughter when he saw her standing in the path of the Nightshade Wolf. His heart stopped Mia. He shouted, his voice drowned out by the panicked cries of the crowd. He tried to push through the throng, but the press of bodies made it impossible to reach her in time. The wolf moved closer, each step deliberate and menacing. Its silver eyes locked onto Mia, unblinking and filled with intelligence that seemed almost unnatural. The air was thick with tension. The crowd silent now as they braced for the inevitable. Mia, however, stood still. She tilted her head slightly, her wide brown eyes meeting the wolf's gaze without a trace of fear. She held out her small hand, palm open, as though reaching for a stray dog rather than a galaxy-renowned predator. The wolf stopped abruptly, lowering its massive head to sniff her hand. A low growl rumbled in its throat, but it wasn't a sound of anger. It was something else. Entirely reverence, perhaps. Slowly and possibly, the Nightshade Wolf sank to its knees, bowing its head before the tiny girl. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even King Thion, known for his unshakable composure, rose from his seat, his expression one of disbelief. This cannot be, muttered. Mia stepped closer to the wolf, her hand brushing against its fur. The beast's eyes softened, and it let out a soft, almost purring sound. It was as though the ferocity had drained from its body, replaced by an inexplicable calm. The deadliest creature in the galaxy had submitted to a child. Eldry finally broke free of the crowd and rushed to Mia's side. His breath came in ragged gasps as he pulled her into his arms. Are you all right? What were you thinking? I wasn't scared, Mia said simply, her gaze still on the wolf. You not mean he's just lonely. King Thion descended from his throne, his guards flanking him as he approached the scene. His piercing gaze swept over Mia, Eldry, and the subdued wolf. What sorcery is this? He demanded, his voice echoing through the arena. It's not sorcery, Mia replied, her voice small but confident. He just wanted someone to be kind to him. Tran studied her for a long moment before turning his gaze to the wolf, now lying docile at her feet. The crowd, still stunned, watched in silence as the king spoke again. This beast bows to no one, not even me, and yet it kneels before you. How Mia shrugged, her innocence unshaken. I don't know, he just likes me. Thran's eyes narrowed, his thoughts unrateable. Finally, he gestured to his guards, bring the girl and her father to the palace. I will have answers. As the kink entourage escorted them away, Eldrick held Mia close, his mind racing with questions. The wolf followed without resistance, its massive frame towering over them, yet exuding a calmness that defied its fearsome reputation. Whatever had just happened was only the beginning of the journey. To King Thran's palace was one of tension and wonder. Eldri clutched Mia tightly as their transport ascended into the night sky, heading toward the shimmering spires of Zinui. Stronghold, the nightshade wolf, still subdued, walked alongside the guards that flanked them, its movements fluid and unthreatening. To Eldri, the sight of the massive predator obeying the commands of a 7-year-old was nothing short of miraculous. To the guards it was. Unsettling, the palace loomed into view, its crystalline towers glowing faintly with an inner light that seemed alive as they landed in the central courtyard. Dozens of Zinui officials and Sayers gathered, their scaled forms glinting in. The moonlight whispers filled the air as word of the wolf's submission spread like wildfire. "This is impossible one," murmured the beast. "Kneels to no one, not even the king." Another said, their voice tinged with Dra disembarked, first his robes flowing like liquid metal as he descended the ramp. He turned to address the crowd, his voice sharp and commanding. "Bring them to the hall of fates." Eldri and Mia were ushered inside the grand hall, the wolf padding silently. Behind them the room was vast, with high ceilings etched with ancient Zinui runes that seemed to shimmer and shift in the flickering light. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone dice where Thyan ascended to take his place on the throne. The kink-piercing gaze swept over the humans, and the wolf speak. He commanded, his voice echoing. "How did this come to be?" Eldri stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Your Majesty, I don't know. My daughter wandered off during the exhibition, and before I could reach her." The wolf had bowed to her. Thran's eyes narrowed as he studied me as she stood, calmly, her small hand resting on the wolf's head, as though it were nothing more than a large dog. The beast's silver eyes followed her every movement, not with the predatory sharpness it had shown in the arena, but with something almost resembling loyalty. "You expect me to believe that a child tamed the deadliest creature in the galaxy by accident?" Tran said, his tone incredulous. "There is more to this. The wolf is no ordinary beast. It is a creature of wrath, born of the ancient void wars. It was bred to destroy, not submit." Mia tilted her head, her voice soft but unwavering. "He's not bad, he's just sad." The room fell silent. Even Thyan seemed momentarily taken aback. "Sad," he repeated, his voice soft and now, though no less skeptical. Mia nodded. "He's lonely. He doesn't want to fight. He just wants someone to care about him." Thyan leaned back in his throne, his expression unrateable. "And you claim to understand this creature's mind?" "I don't know how," Mia admitted, stroking the wolf's fur. "I just feel it." Eldri placed a protective hand on Mia's shoulder. "Your Majesty, with all due respect, she's just a child. Whatever this connection is, it's not something she planned." THRX and rose, his imposing figure casting a long shadow over them. "Perhaps not, but the bond is undeniable. The nightshade wolf does not submit to force or fear. For centuries it has served as a weapon of destruction, bound only by the strongest of Zenari warriors. Yet here it kneels unchained to a human child." His gaze shifted to one of the court scholars, a wizened Andari elder, draped in ceremonial robes. "Coraline, bring the Book of Shadows." The elder bowed and disappeared into an adjacent chamber, returning moments later with an ornate tome bound in black and metal. She opened it to a specific page, her glowing eyes scanning the ancient script. "There's a legend," Coraline began, her voice slow and deliberate. "A figure known as the Heart Bonded. It is said that in times of great upheaval, a soul of pure innocence will emerge, capable of taming even the wildest of beasts. This bond is not forged by strength, but by compassion. A force the wolf cannot resist." The hall erupted in murmurs. Thyan silenced them with a raised hand. "Are you saying this child is the heart-bonded?" Coraline inclined her head to signs. "Align, Your Majesty. The bond she shares with the nightshade wolf is unprecedented. It is not of our mating." Thyan expression hardened. "If this is true, then the child is far more significant than we realize. Such a bond could change the balance of power in the galaxy for better or worse." Eldri stepped forward, his voice firm. Despite his fear, Shek, just a little girl. She didn't ask for any of this. If you're thinking of using her, I will do no such thing." Draxon interrupted sharply. "But this bond is a matter of great importance. It cannot be ignored." The following day, Draxon summoned Mia, Eldri, and the wolf to the royal training BRS. The sprawling arena was surrounded by towering walls etched with glowing and tar runes, designed to contain even the most ferocious of beasts. A crowd of quarter scholars and soldiers gathered to witness what the king called a test of loyalty. "If the bond between the child and the wolf is genuine," Thyan announced, "it will endure even under extreme conditions." Eldrick scowled. "And what happens if it doesn't?" Thyan met his gaze. "Then we will know the truth." Stood in the center of the arena, Shadow, the name she had given the wolf beside her. The beast's ears twitched as it scanned the area, its muscles tense, but its posture protective Thine gave a signal, and a series of holographic adversaries materialized around them. These projections, though not real, were programmed to simulate combat and aggression designed to provoke and intimidate. The holograms lunged toward Mia, their weapons gleaming shadow-lit. Out a deafening roar positioning itself between her and the attackers with lightning-fast reflexes, the wolf swiped through the projections, dispersing them into harmless bursts of light. Despite the simulated chaos, Mia remained calm, her hand resting lightly on shadows, for the crowd murmured in awe. Even Thine, usually stoic expression, betrayed a flicker of surprise. Impressive, he muttered, but the test wasn't over. Thine gave another signal, and the projections shifted this time. They took the form of Zenari soldiers there. Holographic visages eerily lifelike, they approached with menacing precision, surrounding Mia and Shadow Mia whispered, her voice trembling. For the first time, it's okay, they're not real. The wolf growled low, its silver eyes darting between projections, and Mia, then, to the astonishment of the onlookers, Shadow lowered its head and stood down, refusing to attack. The arena fell silent. Thine descended from his observation platform, his steps deliberate as he approached the pair. The wolf obeys, not out of fear, but out of trust, he said, his voice tinged with admiration. You have done what no Zanui warrior ever could. You have tamed its soul. Mia looked up at the king, her small frame dwarfed by his imposing figure. I didn't tame him, I just showed him he wasn't alone. Thine studied her for a long moment before bowing his head slightly, a gesture of respect rarely given to anyone outside his own people. You are a remarkable child. The galaxy has much to learn from you, as the crowd erupted into applause. Eldry exhaled a breath. He didn't realize he'd been holding whatever this bond was. It had already begun to change not only the wolf, but the hearts of everyone who witnessed at the events of the arena. Spread across the Zenui Empire and beyond, news of the human child Mia and her bond with the Nightshade Wolf rippled through the galaxy, drawing the attention of Ea scholars, wary political leaders, and opportunistic factions in the Zenui royal palace. King Thine convened his advisors to discuss the implications. A child is no ordinary human, one advisor declared, his scales glinting under the chambers. Light, if she can tame the wolf, what else could she control? She is not controlling it. Coralin, the elder scholar, corrected sharply. The wolf follows her willingly. That bond is sacred, rooted in mutual trust and compassion, qualities we have underestimated in humans. Thine sat in silence, his gaze fixed on holographic reports flooding his chamber. Images of Mia and Shadow in the arena played on a loop, the wolf's submission still a marvel to him. Finally, he spoke. The bond may be pure, but also makes them a target. There are those who would exploit this connection for power, for fear, or worse, your majesty. Another advisor interjected, should we not take the wolf under Zenui protection? It was our creation during the Void Wars. Its power belongs to us. Thran's voice was cold. No, the wolf belongs to no one, not even me, and neither does the child. We will protect them, but they will remain free. Meanwhile, Mia and Shadow had become inseparable. The wolf followed her everywhere, its massive frame moving with surprising grace through the palace halls. The Zenui guards, initially wary, grew accustomed to its presence, though they always kept their distance. Eldry, however, remained on edge. One evening, Eldry found Mia in the royal gardens, sitting beneath a towering crystal tree. Shadow lay beside her, its head resting on her lap. As she absent-mindedly stroked its fur, Mia, Eldry said, kneeling beside her, I know you care about Shadow, but this is bigger than you realize. People, dangerous people, are going to want him. They'll want you too. Mia looked up at her father, her eyes calm but determined. I'm not scared, Dad. Shadow will protect me, and who will protect Shadow? Eldry countered. You're just a little girl. Shadow let out a low, rumbling growl, not a threat, but of reassurance. It raised its head, looking directly at Eldry with an intelligence that made his breath catch. Mia smiled faintly. Shadow says we'll protect each other. Eldry sighed, running a hand through his hair. He wanted to argue, to take her away from all this, but the bond between Mia and the wolf was undeniable. Just promise me you'll be careful, he said finally. I promise, Mia said, leaning against Shadow. Will be okay. Mia's promise was soon tested. Late one night, alarms blared throughout the palace. Eldrick jolted awake, grabbing the plasma pistol he'd been given for protection. Moments later, Zenari guards stormed into their quarters. Human Eldry, one said urgently, you and the child must come with us. The palace is under attack. Eldrick demanded, pulling Mia from her bed. By who unknown forces? The guard replied. They breached the outer defenses minutes ago. Their targets are clear. They want the wolf's shadow. Already alert, growled deeply. As it positioned itself in front of Mia, the guards hesitated, their weapons drawn, but not a bleating move. Elry snapped. Lifting M.A. into his arm, Shadow followed, closely, its silver eyes scanning every shadow for threats. The halls of the palace where chaos explosions rocked the walls, and the once pristine corridors were littered with debris. As they made their way to the secure chamber, they encountered the attackers. Mercenaries clad in black armor, their weapons gleaming with stolen Andar technology. One mercenary raised his rifle, aiming at Shadow before Eldry could react. The wolf sprang forward, its claws flashing like blades. The attacker crumbled instantly, his weapon clattering to the floor. Eldry fired at another mercenary, his aim sharp and practiced. "Keep moving," he shouted to the guards. "Don't let them separate us." Mia clung to his shoulder, her eyes wide but dry. "Shadow," she called as the wolf leapt toward another group of attackers. "Be careful." The wolf tore through the enemy ranks with terrifying efficiency, its movements a blur of speed and power, yet even in the heat of battle, it never strayed far from Mia, ensuring her safety. Above all else in the secure chamber, King Thran stood at the center of a tactical display, directing his forces. He turned sharply as Mia, Eldry, and Shadow entered the ladder, covered in scorch marks, but uninjured. "You made it," Tran said, his tone a mix of relief and frustration. "They came for the wolf, as I feared." "Who are they?" Eldry demanded, lowering Mia to ground. "And how did they get past your defenses?" Thran's expression darkened. "A rogue faction. Likely mercenaries hired by one of my rivals. The wolf's bond with the child has made it the most sought-after asset in the galaxy." Shadow growled low, its silver eyes locked on the tactical display. The image showed enemy ships circling the palace, their weapons firing relentlessly at the Zenui defenses. The palace shields flickered under the assault, their collapse imminent. "They won't stop," Draxon said grimly. "Not until they have what they came for. Then we fight," Eldry said, his voice steely. "But not just for the wolf, for my daughter." Thyan nodded, impressed by the hum resolve. "Very well, we will hold the line. But know this, if the wolf's power falls into the wrong hands, it could mean war on a galactic scale." As the chamber shook with another explosion, Mia knelt beside Shadow, placing her hands gently on its fur. "We'll protect each other," she whispered. Shadow let out a soft grumble, its glowing eyes meeting hers. With unwavering trust together, they prepared to face the battle ahead, their bond stronger than ever. The palace trembled under the relentless barrage of enemy fire outside. The skies of Zenui Prime burned with the energy of starships, exchanging volleys of plasma. The attackers, a well-organized band of mercenaries led by the enigmatic robed General Krex, had pierced the outer defenses and were closing in on the palace. Their mission was clear: capture the Nightshade Wolf at any cost. Inside the palace, Mia and Shadow stood at the heart of the unfolding chaos. Eldry, his plasma pistol clutched tightly, kept a wary eye on the blast doors that separated them from the main hall. King Thyan, now clad in ceremonial armor that shimmered like liquid steel, barked commands to his Zenui warriors through a holographic tactical display. "They're focusing all firepower on the western walls," Thyan said, pointing to a weak point on the map. "They're trying to create a breach. If they get through, they'll flood the palace." Eldry tightened his grip on his weapon. "What are our chances of holding them off?" "Not good," Thyan admitted grimly. "Their technology is advanced, likely stolen from Zanari outposts, and they outnumber us 3-1. Mia, standing beside Shadow, looked up at the king. "What can we do?" Thyan hesitated, his piercing eyes softening as they met Mia's determined gaze. "You've already done more than enough, child. The wolf will protect you. Just stay here." But Mia shook her head. "Shadow isn't just protecting me. We protect each other. If they want him, they'll have to get through me first." Thyan raised an eyebrow, impressed by the young human's courage. A bold claim. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." As the attackers breached the western wall, the first wave of mercenaries poured into the palace ground. Centauri warriors engaged them with disciplined precision, their energy blades cutting through the darkness. Shadow growled deeply, its silver eyes glowing as it prepared to fight. Mia placed a hand on its fur. "The careful, Shadow," she whispered. The beast responded with a low, reassuring rumble before bounding forward, its massive frame blurred as it moved with predatory grace, leaping into the fray. The mercenaries, confident in their armor and advanced weaponry, were unprepared for the sheer ferocity of the Nightshade Wolf. Shadow tore through their ranks with calculated precision, its claws slicing through metal as though it were paper. Eldry and Thyan joined the fight from a balcony overlooking the main hall. Thran's energy blade shimmered as he cut down an approaching mercenary, while Eldry provided cover fire with his pistol. The Two fought side by side, an unlikely alliance forged in the heat of battle. I didn't think I'd ever be fighting alongside royalty, Eldry muttered, firing a precise shot that disarmed a mercenary. Below, and I didn't think a human mechanic would be defending my throne. Thyan retorted, slashing through another. Attacker, yes, yet here we are. Despite their efforts, the mercenaries continued. To advance, Shadow's relentless assault slowed them, but it was clear they were prepared to sacrifice as many lives as necessary to reach their goal. The air was thick with the sounds of battle blaster fire, energy blades clashing, and the deafening roars of the Nightshade Wolf. Mia, stay close, Eldry shouted as the enemy pushed closer to their position, but Mia was already moving. She climbed onto a balcony rail, her small frame silhouetted against the chaos below. Shadow, she called, her voice carrying through the den. The wolf paused, its glowing eyes snapping to her come back. She commanded, her firm yet gentle. Shadow obeyed, instantly leaping up to the balcony. In a single bound, the mercenaries faltered at the sight, their fear palpable. The beast stood protectively in front of Mia, its growl echoing to the hall like thunder. Thyan turned to her, astonishment in his eyes. How do you do that? I don't know, Mia admitted. He just listens to me. Brian glanced at Eldry, then back at Mia. Then let's make sure he has the chance to keep listening. As the battle raged on the Zenui defenses began to falter, Cax himself entered the palace, flanked by heavily armed mercenaries clad in exos suits. The rogue general was a towering figure, his dark armor etched with scars from countless battles. His voice boomed through the halls as he issued his ultimate, made him king. Thyan, Cax roared, surrender the wolf, and I'll spare your people. Thyan stepped forward, his blade glowing with energy. You'll find Xander are not so easily intimidated. Cax laughed, a harsh metallic sound. You're a fool to resist that wolf is a weapon, a tool of power. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to anyone. Mia's voice rang out clear and defiant. You're wrong, Hugh, not a weapon. HEK, my friend. The rogue general turned, his dark eyes narrowing as he saw the girl. And the wolf, you must be the child I've heard so much about. Tell me, little one, what makes you think you can stand in my way before Mia could respond? Shadow roared, its scales glowing with a brilliance that filled the hall. The mercenaries stepped back, their confidence shaken. She doesn't have to stand in your way, Eldry said, leveling his pistol. She's got him, Casey sneered. Let's see how long that lasts. He raised his hand, signaling his forces to attack. The mercenaries surged forward, but Shadow met them head on. The wolf's movements were impossibly fast, its claws and teeth tearing through the enemy ranks. The air crackled with energy as Shadow unleashed a pulse of light that sent several mercenaries flying. Thyan and Eldry joined to fight their attacks. Coordinated with Shadow's feral precision, Mia stayed back, her heart pounding as she watched her father and the king fight alongside her companion. Despite their bravery, it was clear the enemy had the upper hand. KX's forces were too numerous and their technology too advanced. Just as hope began to waver, Shadow stopped abruptly, its silver eyes locking onto Mia. The wolf let out a low, resonant growl, and suddenly Mia understood it's time. She said softly, time for what? Eldry shouted. Reloading his pistol, Mia stepped forward, her small frame dwarfed by the chaos around her. She placed both hands on Shadow, glowing fur, and closed her eyes. The wolf emitted a low hum in the air around them, seemed to shift. A wave of energy radiated outward, freezing the mercenaries in their tracks. Casey staggered back, his armor sparking. What is this? Mia opened her eyes, and they shone with the same silver light as Shadow's. He's not just a weapon, he's hope. The wave of energy grew stronger, forcing the mercenaries to retreat. Cax snarled in frustration, his forces crumbling before the combined power of the child and the wolf. Will meet again, he spat before retreating with his remaining soldiers. As silence fell over the Palestine, sheathed his blade and turned to Mia and Shadow. You've done the impossible, he said, his voice filled with awe, not just today, but from the moment you tamed that beast. Eldry pulled Moya into a tight hug, his relief palpable. You were amazing, he whispered. Mia looked up at Shadow, her hand resting on its fur. We were amazing. Thyan stepped closer, his expression solemn. The galaxy will remember this day not as a victory of strength, but as a triumph of trust and courage. You and Shadow have proven that even the fiercest of creatures can find peace, and that even the smallest among us can change the stars of dawn. That follow the siege was unlike any the Zenui Palace had seen in decades. The once pristine halls bore the scars of battle, with shattered pillars, scorched walls, and the lingering smell of burnt metal. Yet amidst the destruction there was an undeniable sense of triumph. The mercenaries had retreated, their forces broken, and Cax had fled into the shadows. Of the galaxy for now's Zentar Prime was safe. Mia sat quietly in the royal. Gardens, her legs dangling over the edge of a crystal fountain shadow. Lay beside her, its massive frame curled. Protectively around her despite its size and ferocity during the battle, the wolf's presence was calm, even comforting. As though it sensed Mia's need for peace, Eldry approached, slowly carrying 2 mugs of hot tea. His movements were stiff. Battle wounds and fatigue had taken their toll, but his expression softened as he watched his daughter stroke the fur of the galaxy's deadliest predator. "You've been quiet," he said, handing her a mug before sitting down next to her. Mia stared into the tea, her fingers tracing the rim of the mug. "Everyone keeps saying we won, but it doesn't feel like it." Eldry sighed, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Because you're thinking about the people we lost." She nodded. "The Zentar guards, even some of the mercenaries, they didn't have to fight. They didn't have to die." "You're right," Elry said softly, "but you saved so many more lives, Mia. Without you and Shadow, we would have lost everything, and that's something worth." Remembering, Shadow let out a low, rumbling hum, nudging Mia gently with its massive head. She managed a small smile, leaning into the wolf's warmth. Just then King Thine arrived, his regal armor polished and his posture as commanding as ever, yet there was an uncharacteristic gentleness in his gaze. As he looked at Mia, "The people of Xander owe you their lives," he said, his voice steady. "You and Shadow turned the tide of a battle that could have destroyed us." Mia looked up at him, her expression solemn. "It wasn't justice. Everyone fought to protect this place." Thine smiled, faintly spoken like a true leader. Eldry frowned, slightly sensing the weight behind the kink words. "What happens now, Your Majesty? Kriax may have retreated, but he won't stop. He'll come back, and others will follow." Thran's gaze darkened. "You're right. The bond between your daughter and the wolf has become a symbol, one that will draw both allies and enemies. That's why we must decide what comes next." Later that day, Thine convened a council meeting in the Hall of Fate. Xenui officials, military leaders, and scholars gathered to discuss the implications of the bond between Mia and Shadow. Eldry stood at his daughter's side, his protective instincts on high alert, while Mia sat quietly with Shadow resting at her feet. "The wolf cannot remain here," one general declared, his scaled hands slamming on the table. "As long as it's on Zenar Prime will be a target. Our defenses won't hold against another attack of the scale, but the wolf and the girl are our greatest strength." Coral encountered, her voice calm but firm. "Their bond represents something far greater than mere power. It is a beacon of unity, of trust. To send them away would be a mistake." Thine raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that rippled through the chamber. "Eldry, Mia, you've been at the center of this storm. What would you choose?" Eldry glanced at Mia, who met his gaze with quiet confidence that bellied her age. He turned back to the king. "I want my daughter to be safe, but I also know she's already made her choice." Mia stood, her small frame dwarfed by the towering Xenui around her. "Shadow and I belong together, and if we can help protect people, if we can stop what happened here from happening to anyone else, then that's what we'll do." The room fell silent as her words sank, and even the staunchest skeptics couldn't deny the clarity in her voice. Thine rose from his throne, his expression thoughtful. "The galaxy will remember what you've done here today, Molt, and it will look to you and Shadow as symbols of hope." He gestured toward the holographic map of the galaxy projected in the center of the chamber. "But the galaxy is vast, and its dangers are many. If you are to carry this burden, you'll need a sanctuary, a place where you can learn and grow without constant threats." Coralin stepped forward. "There is an ancient Xenui outpost deep in the Orion Nebula. It is hidden, protected by natural energy fields, and known only to a few. Provide the safety you need, while also allowing the wolf's bond with Mia to strengthen." Eldry's jaw tightened. "You're asking us to leave everything behind?" Thine met his gaze. "I'm asking you to safeguard something precious. Your daughter's bond with the wolf has the power to change the galaxy, for better or worse. But protect her, and to protect what she represents, sacrifices must be made." Mia looked up at her father, her hand resting on Shadow's head. "We'll be okay. Dad's Shadow will keep us safe, and we'll come back someday." Eldry knelt in front of her, his hands on her shoulders. "If this is what you want, then I'll be with you every step of the way." That evening, under the soft glow of Zenari Prime's twin moons, Mia, Eldry, and Shadow boarded a sleek, newly outfitted ship gifted by Thine. The king stood at the docking bay, his regal demeanor softened by a rare smile. "Go with the blessings of Xenui," he said, "and know that you will always have a home here." Mia hugged Shadow tightly as the ship lifted off, her eyes fixed on the horizon. As they soared into the stars, the wolf let out a deep, resonant How a sound that carried across the galaxy, echoing to the hearts of all who heard it from Mia, Eldry, and Shadow. This was not an ending, but the beginning of a new journey, one that would test their bond, challenge their courage, and redefine the very fabric of the galaxy. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, united by a connection that transcended fear, power, and even the stars themselves.